GM, everyone. We will give a couple minutes for people to come in before we get started. All right, we'll get started, I think, in just a few seconds. Hope everyone's had a great first opening ceremony, first day of the hackathon. So let me just make sure we are live. And I think we are all good. Awesome. Let us know where you're from in the chat. I'd love to see. Okay, let's get started. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Chainlink 2023 Spring Hackathon. For those who didn't catch the opening ceremony, you can check it out on YouTube. The hackathon is officially open now, and we're excited for everyone to get started. We're excited for everyone to get hacking. So what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes is we're going to talk about some tips for the hackathon on what you can do to submit a great project, and some general tips in progress. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Wow, we've got some people from everywhere here: India, UK, Pakistan, US, Turkey, Spain, Nigeria. Awesome. Berlin, Panama, Tonga. Nice. All right. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Cool. So once again, welcome everyone. My name's Harry Papacrusiu, and I manage the developer advocates here at Chainlink Labs. Very excited to talk to everyone today about the hackathon. So hackathons are these amazing competitions where you can try to come up with these cool new ideas that solve problems, right? And they're done in this kind of really tight pressure cooker scenario. But you know, how do you approach the hackathon? What should you do to be successful? What should you avoid doing so that you can be successful? What should you care about? What you should look out for? What should you focus on for your project? That's what we're going to talk about in the next few minutes here. So the first and the most important thing that I want to talk about is what makes a good hackathon submission. Right? What are we looking for, basically? So I think there's probably 3 rules that you should 100% stick to when building your project and when thinking about your project too, right? And firstly, make sure that everything you have is public so that we can see it. We have so many submissions that come in where the repository isn't public, or the video isn't public, or something isn't public, and then we have to chase it up. And then sometimes they respond, and then we can see it. Sometimes they don't respond in time, you know, which is a shame. So make sure all your code, all your documentation, and that your video is public, and that we can see it when you submit it, right? And next thing, and probably also equally as important, is make sure you use the tool or the protocol or the service that you're hacking with. Make sure you use the tool, protocol, service for the specific hackathon that you're hacking in your submission, right? So in this case, Chainlink, make sure you're using Chainlink in some way or form if you want to be eligible for the main Chainlink prizes. If you're going for one of the sponsor prizes like AWS, make sure you're using AWS in your submission, et cetera, et cetera. Very important, right? And the last one is make sure that, don't focus on building a fully featured DApp with all the bells and whistles and everything 100% feature complete, right? Just getting an MVP off the ground and working is probably a lot more important than having a finished submission, right? So just get something working, get it with the bare basics, and then take that and improve upon it if you get time, right? It's more important to submit something that works at a basic level than something that's like this complete, shiny 100% fully feature complete hackathon submission. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat as we're going. So let's talk about the judging criteria next. So the judging process in this hackathon is quite involved, right? And there's no one person that judges. All the projects get seen. All the projects get seen by multiple judges. Multiple judges give each project a score, and then that score is kind of averaged out between those 3 or so judges that judge the projects. So and in terms of what each judge judges a project on, we'll go through that now. So there's 5 different categories that we basically give each project a rating for. And I think the rating might be out of 5 or something, right? So the first one is user interface, user experience, developer experience. What is the user experience like? What is the user interface like? Is it, is it cool and easy to use? Is it complicated? Is it basic, etc.? And this is where you can really shine through if you have someone that focuses on front end. So I really, really recommend, or I can't recommend strongly enough, if you can get someone that does front end, that's good at front end stuff, your project will go a long way into getting a high score here. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a front end person at all. And whenever I was doing hackathons, I'd specifically look in the Discord and in the team making sessions, etc., for people that had experience in doing front end, because they can really help you to score higher in this category. Having said that, if you can't get someone to do front end, it's not the end of the world. You can still try and do something yourself, even at a basic level. It's not going to affect you too much if you can't. So great question in the chat here from Andre. I guess the project needs to be hosted online and working. You don't need to have a submission hosted somewhere, right? In your submission, as long as you submit the code and a video of you demoing the thing where you have it hosted somewhere at the time of demo, so that we can see that it works, that's fine. But you don't have to have a live deployment of it somewhere for us to play with ourselves. Great question. So what's the next judging criteria? Originality. How original is a project? Is it an NFT, right? Or is it something new that we haven't seen before, right? So we'll take a look at the project and make a decision of how original we think the idea is, and give it a score out of 5. Next one, technicality. How technical is the project? Is it quite involved with a lot of code that's doing quite a few things, or is it basic, using Open Zeppelin templates and a little bit of logic here and there, a little bit of a front end, etc. So we judge the project on how technical we think the code is in that category there. Next one, practicality. How practical is your project? Does it sound like something that could be used in the real world? Would it improve people's lives in some way and make it easier or more efficient? or is it something that we think, okay, it's cool, but it's not really that practical? So we'll judge it on its practicality as well. And finally, the wow factor. So this one's not really a tangible thing. It's more of a vibe thing. So when a judge judges your projects, how impressed are they by it overall? Are they like, wow, this thing's really cool, right? Because it's done this thing I've never seen before. It's very well presented. The video is awesome. So they'll give it a judge on just how impressed overall they are with the submission. See a couple questions in the chat here. Let's take a look. Some hints on how to assemble the team. What should I focus on? I guess it depends on. It depends on what you want and what your specialty is. I do have a slide on team, so I will revisit this question in a couple minutes when we get to that. Actually, should everything be open source, also the front end? If possible, yes. Web3 is typically an open source community. We like code to be open source so that everyone can see. However, if for some reason you don't want the code to be open source and you want to keep it private, you can submit it closed source, and you can grant us access to the repository so that just we can see it. And if you check out the FAQ in hack.chain.link, you'll see the details on how to do that. Couple more questions in the chat here. We'll answer them and move on. Can you make 2 projects? Yeah, if you have time in the hackathon to actually make 2 projects, then yeah, go for it. You can apply with multiple projects, and you can work without a team if you want to work solo. I've worked solo in hackathons before as well. We'll move on for now. I see there are a couple more questions in the chat. I will get to them, but I just want to make sure we get through all the content as well. So I'll get back to them. So yeah, let's talk about teamwork now. So you enter the hackathon yourself and build everything yourself, or as much as you can yourself, and submit it. However, usually the best projects, usually the winning projects, are done by teams, not individuals, right? Because you've got a limited amount of time in the hackathon, and usually when you team up with people have different specialities and things that they can focus on. And I'm not sure if there's a team limit in terms of size. If you go to hack.chain.link and check the FAQ, if there is a team limit of say 5 people per team or something, it'll be listed there, but I don't remember off the top of my head. So if you can, try find teammates. I highly recommend it, but if you can't, you can still 100% hack yourself, right? So you can find teammates. We have some Gather Town sessions starting today, I think. Or you can go into the Discord, and I think there's a Find Teammates channel in our hackathon section there. And what I usually do is just, say, hey, my name's Harry. I do smart contract development, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking for a front-end person. I'm looking for someone to help me out with smart contracts. I'm looking for anyone. See if anyone responds. Take a look at some of the other posts people have put in Discord. Send them a DM, intro yourself, share your Discord, ask to see their Discord, and see if you can vibe with anyone. And you can kind of do the same thing in the Gather Town sessions as well. So yeah, if you can, try and team up with people. It doesn't have to be people you know or anything. It could be complete strangers. Check out some of their work. Ask what they're passionate about. Ask what kind of ideas they have for the hackathon, and try and, if possible, do stuff in teams. However, once again, you 100% can do things solo, right? And sometimes things don't work out when you get teammates too. Like, you'll get a teammate, you'll start work with them, and then a week later they'll bail for some reason or not respond and stuff. And don't let that get you down. Try and roll with the punches and just try and continue. Feel free to just work solo or get another teammate after that, etc. So it's definitely about the journey here. And yeah, I found that usually the projects that have teams, that have people that focus on individual things, etc., are usually the ones that win some of the more major prizes. However, having said that, there are solo hackers that win prizes too, 100%. So don't be turned off by that. I've actually won a hackathon before as a solo hacker, so you 100% can still. Cool. Let's move on. So let's talk about the video. So the video is actually really important, guys. So when we judge your hackathon submission, we'll take a look at the entry and dev post, we'll read everything. And what we'll usually do is we'll check the code, make sure it's all valid, etc. But we'll watch the video too, right? And the video is basically what's showing off your project to us, right? It's what's selling it to us. So it's really important that you have a video, really important that you show that your code works in the video, that you demo your actual thing that you build. Yeah, with a video, it's all about quality, not quantity. So, there's no need to have this massive 10-minute long video explaining everything. Just have a quick 3 to 5 minute video that just shows that your thing works. Feel free to make it a little bit fun, a little bit interesting. Doesn't have to be 100% serious, as long as it just shows that your thing works, so that we can watch it and see, okay, cool, I've checked out the code for this thing, looks cool. It actually works. The front end looks interesting, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's score it now. So yeah, video, very important. This is what grabs the attention of the judges, right? And especially the first 30 seconds of the video, very important as well. Focus on showing what your thing is, what it does. And once again, feel free to make it not so serious. I'll just answer this couple questions in the chat before we move on. I will get to the other ones before we end things, so don't fret. Great question from Christian. Can I make a team with partners that are not participating in the hackathon? So if you make a team with people, then they are by default participating in the hackathon. If they haven't signed up, then you can still work with them, but just highly recommend you get them to sign up as well at some stage during the process. So sign-ups are still open. They'll be open throughout the hackathon. So definitely feel free to work with anyone you want. Great question there. One more question from Aries Dream. Sorry if I sound repetitive. Can we build on a testnet, or does it have to be on one of the hackathon sponsors like Flow? Yeah, so you can build. The thing with the Chainlink hackathons is you can build anywhere you want, right? So with Chainlink, as long as you use Chainlink, right, you can build wherever you want. So it can be Ethereum, it can be Mumbai, it can be anywhere. If you're going after a specific sponsor track prize as well, such as Flow or AWS, etc., then there is a second criteria of you need to use their thing as well in your project. So if it's AWS, you need to use AWS in your project, connect to it, get some data from it or something using functions. If it's Flow, you need to, build on Flow as well, right? So I think you can build wherever you want, as long as, once again, you use Chainlink in some way or form, and for a partner prize, you use their thing as well. Okay, let's move on. I'll get back to some of the other questions. So another thing I just wanted to reiterate here, most people build a hackathon project from scratch, right? A brand new idea, build it up from the ground up. You don't actually have to do that, right? A lot of things in the world that get built, and a lot of projects, protocols, etc., they're not always just built from the ground up, right? You can take something that exists and change it, improve it, make it better in some way or form, upgrade it, right? You just need to be very clear in your submission that this is what you've done, right? So that we can judge you on the part that you've done and not on the stuff that existed before, right? So you can say, hey, we forked protocol X, as you can see in our GitHub. We've done, this, and this to it because we thought it was cool, right? So don't be afraid to take something that exists and improve upon it and make it better, because a lot of the time that's what happens in the real world as well, right? Where can I find the specific prize requirements? I think the best place for that is in the landing page. No, in the dev post page. Let me just share that with everyone. There we go. I just shared that in the chat with everyone. And quick one for the bounty hunters. If you're a bounty hunter that's trying to go after, prize money, a lot of people actually do that. They just enter hackathons as a way to, earn crypto and stuff like that. A couple tips. Obviously, the better your submission, the more your chances of getting a prize are. And for some of these major prizes, take note of the criteria that I talked about earlier, the UX, the UI UX, wow factor, practicality, technicality, etc. And ask yourself for your project, what would I rate myself out of 5 for this category, and kind of see where you sit. And obviously the better the better that you rate yourself, possibly the better that we'll rate your project as well, right? There's also other prizes, pool prizes, etc. if you use other technologies. So if you can incorporate some of them into your project, it can help boost your winnings. Yeah, I think that's it for that one. Let's see the chat here. How will the project be submitted, and how will all members be recognized? So during the hackathon, you'll get an email with instructions on how to submit, but basically you're going to submit it to DevPost by essentially filling out a form, right? And then that will create an entry on the DevPost page. And when the hackathon ends, we will then judge everything from DevPost specifically, and it will have your name, your team member's name, your project, the link to the GitHub URL, the link to the video, and all that kind of stuff. So you will get instructions on this at some stage in the next couple of weeks, I'd say. So probably the last really important point that I want to reiterate is make sure you submit your project. Very important, everyone. Even if it's not finished, even if you don't think it's good, even if you've just done a little bit, please submit it. It's very important, more so for yourself than for us, right? It'll kind of just help you mentally to say, hey, I got through this, I did it, I actually submitted something. And it will give you the confidence you need for the next hackathon as well. So irrespective of whether it's finished or not, irrespective of what you think of it, make sure you submit it. We'd love to see what you have done, irrespective of where you're at the end of the hackathon. So very important, please submit your projects. And yeah, in terms of what I wanted to talk about, that is it, right? So I'll get to questions in a minute, but just want to say good luck to everyone. Thank you for joining our hackathon. We're so excited to see all the projects. We love hackathons. One of our favorite times of the year is the judging period for these hackathons, where we get to watch all the videos and see all the cool ideas that people come up with, right? Now I'm just going to go back and I'm going to answer a whole bunch of questions that I haven't. So if you just bear with me. How are we doing for time? Okay, we've got 5 minutes. What can you remind me what I said about AWS specifically again? I was talking about the AWS sponsor prize, I think, where if you want to go for the AWS track, you need to use AWS in some way in your project. And a good example of that is using Chainlink functions to connect to AWS APIs to get some kind of external data. Question from Evan here. Will the judges try to build project on local? No, we will look at the code, but we generally do not pull it and try to build it ourselves. And if you're being considered for a major prize, we will take an even stricter look at your code, right? So, but we generally don't try to build the projects ourselves. Some hints on how to assemble the team. What should I focus on? I just focus on throwing yourself out there in the GatherTown sessions, in the Discord, etc., and just seeing who you vibe with and seeing who you connect with, and just not being afraid to throw yourself out there. That's probably the best advice I can give. And if you're like experienced in smart contract development, then maybe you can consider trying to find someone that's good on the front end. If you've done front end, but not so much Solidity or etc., maybe you can consider finding people that have done smart contract development. If you want a really flashy video, you can find someone who's really good at making and editing videos and things like that. So yeah, if you go to some of these sessions, especially in GatherTown, you'll find that people have all these different talents, and I'm sure you can find some people to join your team. Let's see, what else didn't I respond to? If the idea needs to have a front end, but there was no front end, is there any chance to win? Yes, you can still win prizes even if you don't have a front end. So if you don't have a front end at all, you'll probably be judged, scored low for that category. However, it doesn't mean you can't still win prizes. You can still win prizes because there's 4 other categories. There's still pooled prizes and things like that. So yeah, don't be too turned off if you don't or can't build a front end at all. I said, yes, you can apply with multiple projects as long as you build them during the hackathon timeframes and you don't submit something that you had created at an earlier date. Great question from Evan here. Is using standard base contracts encouraged, or do you want to see custom code? Will having test suites help with technical assessment? Yeah, we don't care how you build your project. You can use contract templates, or it can be all custom code, can be whatever you want, as long as when you show us your demo in the video that it works. That's what we would like to see. That's the more important thing. Will test suites help with technical assessment? Yeah, if you have a project submitted and you have tests as part of the project for the smart contracts, unit test, integration test, whatever, that will probably help our wow factor when we judge the wow factor, and yeah, it will probably help the technicality category as well. A comment here from Alexander. Since we're using blockchain, everything is public by default. Using a private repository kind of does not make a lot of sense. Yeah, most people are fine to submit it open source public. There are some people who are a little bit more protective sometimes of their code or of their idea, and they don't like to share too much publicly, and they submit it privately and then they give us access. But for the most part, yeah, I agree. Most people are fine to just submit it as open source, because that's kind of how Web3 is. Yes, I said before, you can work solo. Can I make one project and submit in multiple categories? Yes, as long as that project is valid for the categories you submit it in, right? So if you build something on Flow that gets AWS data, and that is a DeFi protocol or something, then yes, you can submit it for all of those 3. However, what we don't like to see is people who just tick all the boxes in the categories when they submit, and even though their project is not valid for all of those categories, right? So if you tick gaming or something, but your thing's not a game, it will come up in our list as gaming. But then when we go through it, we're like, well, this one it's not a game, it's like a DeFi thing, right? So only tick the things that your project is valid for when you submit it. What to build in AWS. So with the AWS category, I'm going to share with you a link. So there's a cool project that we built for the Chainlink Functions launch that uses AWS. It basically connects to AWS to grab data from their data stores. I highly recommend checking that out for an example of how you can combine smart contracts with data that's on AWS. So check out that link in the GitHub there. Okay, we've got a couple more minutes. I'll try and get to a couple more questions. Where is the place to submit a team? You don't need to submit your team. You need to find a team. And the best places are in our Discord and in our Gather Town sessions. We have another Gather Town session. We have one Gather Town session starting in, I think, 3 hours. So check out hack.chain.link for details on that. I've seen a couple of questions about Nigerians here and regional requirements and stuff like that. I'm not aware of restrictions and things like that. They're not handled by our team. However, if you go to hack.chain.link, you'll see all of the terms and conditions there, and there should be there's a link at the bottom, a contact link. I highly recommend, if you have any questions around specific regions or anything like that, reach out and we'll make sure that the right person answers your question. Let's just see a couple more questions. One from Lewis here. Can we change the project repository from public to private after the hackathon? Yes, you can do whatever you want after the hackathon. Specific prize requirements are in the dev post. Once again, I will share that in the chat. So check out our dev post, which I just posted there, for more info on each track. A couple more questions here. Let me just scroll down. Great technical question here. Can we call APIs through Chainlink functions directly from our contract, or do we need JavaScript implementation for that? So yeah, if you want to call APIs from your smart contract, Chainlink functions is the best way to do that. And with Chainlink functions, you basically pass in a chunk of JavaScript and say, hey, please run this in a DON off-chain, in a decentralized Oracle network. And that is JavaScript itself, right? So for more info on Chainlink functions, go to our docs at docs.chain.link and click on the functions link. Let's check maybe one more question here. Is it possible for newbies to win? 100%, you could still win prizes. So highly recommend, don't be turned off if you're a newbie. A lot of the I think probably 3/4 or so of the participants in hackathons are generally people that are new, right? So don't be afraid. Please still try. Please still create and submit a project. So project submissions will start on June 9, right? Till there, I should keep building, preparing everything, or do I have to submit something before? No. So yeah, the dates are all on hack.chain.link, and there'll be a date when we will email submission details out, where we'll say, hey, here's how you submit your project when you're ready, and you can submit it from that point on whenever you want. And then there'll be a deadline for final submissions, which will communicate, and from after that is when we start judging all the projects. Okay, last question. Is there chances to get sponsors or VC investment for a project after the hackathon to grow the project more and more if someone is interested in it? Yeah, so hackathons are a great way to get focus on your project, right? So whether you win a prize or not, your project gets out there, people take a look at it, our teams take a look at it, other teams take a look at it, and there are multiple instances of projects going on and going to mainnet after getting funding and all those types of things. So if that's what you're trying to do, yeah, hackathons are a great way to kind of start that process. Awesome. All right, I think we're a couple minutes over. Just wanted to say again, thank you to everyone for joining. Really looking forward to seeing what you build. Make sure you throw yourself out there. Make sure you submit your project, join the GatherTown sessions, find teammates, and most of all, have fun. Thank you, everyone. Bye.